Welcome, beautiful Paris Saint Germain family. It's your boy PSG, and we're going to be discussing a situation currently happening at Paris Saint Germain. Let's start off talking about Leonardo and Thomas Tuchel's relationship at Paris Saint Germain. Obviously, Thomas Tuchel was the manager for Paris Saint Germain, and Leonardo was the sporting director. And when pretty much their beef and majority of their dispute started in the 1920 season, when Paris Saint Germain obviously reached the Champions League final. That was a huge accomplishment for the club, but two senior veteran players, one extremely important and one also has a lot of importance, in Thiago Silva and Edinson Cavani, were let go at the end of their contracts, not extended, which Thomas Tuchel did not like at all. And he went out in an interview and said this: "If it stays like that, we can't talk about the same goals." And then Leonardo clapped back and had this to say: "We did not like the comments. The club did not like them. Me personally, I didn't like it. If someone is not happy, it's easy. We talk, there's no problem. But if you decide to stay, we must respect the club's policy, the house rule, and the club's approach." But their relationship got even more sour when it goes to the Icardi situation. Obviously, Mauro Icardi was brought to Paris Saint Germain with a loan, with an option to buy. But Thomas Tuchel did not want to make it an obligation. Thomas Tuchel did not want to buy Mauro Icardi to Paris Saint Germain, whilst Leonardo, who brought Icardi from Inter Milan on loan, wanted to activate it, and he did activate it for a hefty, big sum of 70 million euros. And you guys have to remember, this was straight after COVID, so Paris Saint Germain didn't have any money apart from that 70 million that was spent on Icardi, with the rest of the transfer window going for Sergio Rico on loan, Danilo Pereira on loan, Rafinha on loan, Alessandro Florenzi, Letellier, and obviously Moise Kean. And the dispute and beef between the two men was so big that Nasser Khalifi had to step in and choose one of them, because both could not remain at Paris Saint Germain. They couldn't work together anymore. It was either removing Leonardo or removing Thomas Tuchel, and Nasser opted for the second option, removing Thomas Tuchel, sacking him in the end of December, Christmas Day if I remember correct, and Leonardo stayed. Now, let's jump to 2024, where Luis Campos is our sporting director and Luis Enrique is our manager. And this big report from Inside Actu came out. You can say goodbye to a lot of players, and I'm afraid for Xavi Simons. Campos is not a fan of the young Dutchman, and he prefers to install a player who is on Jorge Mendes' list. Kimmich, Bruno Guimaraes, or even Kvicha Kvaratskhelia is now the priority of Campos. He will be safer. Leao, Osimhen, and Yusuf Fofana. So yes, they're not all in George Mendes' portfolio, but I hope we won't waste time recruiting. Because at the moment, there's a lot of disagreement. An example, Luis Enrique prefers Kvicha Kvaratskhelia and Luis Campos, Rafael Leao. Campos and Luis Enrique do not agree at all with the directions to take at Paris Saint Germain. On the one hand, you have Campos, who wants to win everything immediately and wants to draw from Jorge Mendes' wallet or recruit French players at the request of Nasser for French players. On the other hand, you have Luis Enrique, who wants to double all the positions, who's based on youth and who is the future, will bring a true plus for the future. Players who have long plans for Paris Saint Germain. When I talk about Xavi Simons and that Campos doesn't want him, it's true. I've always said that for Campos, the player would not impose himself at PSG. I will even go further. The Ziridu has every chances of coming to Paris Saint Germain. Everyone just needs to agree for him to come. PSG is one of the great interests to the player. Nasser is even ready, as I said before, to meet Sissoko, the player's agent, but where it gets stuck is Campos again. The Portuguese has other players in mind. Nasser does not want to put himself between the two. For the moment, there's no conflict between the Spanish and the Portuguese. That's why I said that if Campos stayed, you could say goodbye to certain players who were mentioned recently in the summer transfer window. An example, Cherendor, Gonzalo Ramos, and Manuel Ugarte are Campos choices before Luis Enrique arrived. Results, one of them was loaned this winter, the other was often a substitute despite good performances, and the last one has hardly seen him since January. There seems to be a lot of dispute, or at least some dispute, between Luis Enrique and Luis Campos when it comes to players. Obviously, if we take a look at the summer transfer window that happened, there's definitely three different categories to put all the PSG players that were signed. Ousmane Dembele, success. Lucas Hernandez, success. Bradley Barcola, success. Kangin Lee, half success, futuristic success. Same goes with Arnaud Tenas and Marco Asensio and possibly Xavi Simons. But Milan Skriniar, Manuel Ugarte, Cherendor, Randal Colomani, and Gonzalo Ramos were all part of the transfer window, which, like Luis Enrique, doesn't rate that much and doesn't play that often. Obviously, the only one here, Colomani, he's an anomaly because he's a Nasser signing, so this can't be blamed on Luis Campos. But all of the remaining transfers Either Lucho doesn't rate them as a player, or they're just not good enough for what Luis Enrique wants to set up. And now we're coming up in a big transfer window. Kylian Mbappe is leaving, and we have so much money to replace him. And once again, there's huge disputes. One wants Kvaratskhelia, one wants Leao. One wants Xavi Simons or Desiree Doué. The other one doesn't want neither of them and wants some other Jorge Mendes clients. And this could become a big issue. At the moment, it's not the biggest issue. But in this transfer window, we have to get what Luis Enrique wants. Because then, if we fail, we blame it on Luis Enrique. If we succeed, we prop Luis Enrique. It's that simple. But at the moment, Luis Campos doesn't really want to go with the targets that Luis Enrique wants. For example, Xavi. There's a big dispute. We obviously know Luis Enrique is the one pushing the most for Xavi Simons. Whilst a person like Luis Campos doesn't see Xavi Simons ever succeeding at Paris Saint Germain and purely sees him as an asset. I don't think this is a civil war similar to what we had between Luis Enrique and Kylian Mbappe this season, but this is something that if it's not resolved and if it's not fixed, and if Lucho doesn't get the full power over Campos, Campos finds the players, Lucho chooses the players. It should be like that. Campos should have no choosing in what player to take to Paris Saint Germain. He should choose the profiles and the players that Luis Enrique can later decide from. That's how a good, sustainable club is formed. But let's see what happens. At the moment, there's no big thing. There's no big drama. Obviously, Luis Campos doesn't just have pressure from Luis Enrique. He also has pressure from Nasser Khalifi, obviously, and the PSG board. They blame Luis Campos a lot for what happened with Kylian Mbappe, because obviously Kylian Mbappe was the person that brought Luis Campos to the club. And even with the report dropping that Luis Campos might even extend at Paris Saint Germain after his contract soon runs out, it is still a question mark how long Luis Campos will survive at Paris Saint Germain. At the moment, it's not that big. Nasser doesn't even want to go in between them. He wants to let them decide as fully grown men. And that's the thing. Like, a sporting director and a manager are always going to have some kind of disputes. This happens at every single big club. But what needs to happen is that Lucho gets more power than Campos. It's that simple. The manager should always have more power than the sporting director. And even though I was on for Thomas Tuchel getting sacked back in 2021, I still agree that he should have had more power than Leonardo Araujo. That's been it from your boy PSG. Let me know in the comments down below, what do you guys think about the dispute between Luis Enrique and Luis Campos? That's been it from your boy PSG. And as usual, allez Paris.